we know we can change the world with this. And the truth is that people don't need to suffer anymore. We have an option now. This is our mission. It's my purpose. I spend time with my family and I work on helping people heal. Those are the two things I'm really passionate about. And I felt like I struck gold with this stuff, and I know it works because it worked for me. And I think that's what ended up happening is that, nothing worked for me for 20 years. And then all of a sudden this completely turned my entire life around. And I was just like, oh my gosh, I need to tell everybody about this. But the thing is that I also know that my story isn't for everybody. So what we do through our nonprofit, the Warriors of Consciousness, is we're putting, an advisory board of evangelists together full of military personnel and first responders and, people that different walks of life, different symptoms, different stories, so we can really have a team of evangelists that will reach every demographic out there that needs this medicine.
Because everybody needs access to it. It's not just a rich person's treatment. Everybody deserves to feel better. And there is hope for anybody out there that's struggling.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Christina Thomas. Welcome to the Myself Wellness Podcast. Here with me today is Charles Patti, my co-host, and our producer, Jaime V.
What's going on, guys?
What's up, everybody?
This is episode 1.
This is it. This is like the dawn of the newest, healthiest podcast out there, and looking forward to spreading the good word about healthy lifestyle practices and a lot of psychedelic healing, man.
Yeah, and I mean, to give some context to the audience, obviously most people that are going to tune into the intro have met you guys in certain circumstances, but let's start at the very beginning.
Yeah.
Obviously, Charles, we could start very far back, but let's kind of start right when this idea of building this clinic came to be and what sparked you guys wanting to start this clinic and what started this revolution that you guys are now leading.
Yeah. Charles is a good storyteller. I'll let him tell it.
So, listen, like I suffered for a lot of years with mental health issues and substance abuse problems because I was self-medicating underlying issues. And it was through the use of psychedelic medicines therapeutically, I alleviated all of that out of my life. And so, I sat down with Christina when our son was 6 months old, and I was like, listen, if I went through 20 years worth of misery and don't use what helped me to help other people, it seems like a waste of 20 years of my life. So she was very supportive, hesitant, but supportive, apprehensive, because I was like, so I'm going to quit my jobs and let's take a leap of faith and let's start a clinic where we can help people heal in a holistic way, through meditation and breathwork classes. And, ketamine was something that we wanted to get into, and we didn't really know how we were going to get there, but it was definitely one of our goals. And, pretty quickly through the synchronicity of the universe, we had a doctor that we were working with that was going to be our medical director. And he was like, hey, have you guys ever heard of ketamine before? And we were like, yeah, we have heard of ketamine because that's what we want to get into. So we took the leap of faith. We started the company about 4.5 years ago, I would say. We're
2 weeks before the COVID lockdown.
Yeah. And, stayed positive, put helping people first. And now fast forward to where we're at. We've done about 11,000 ketamine treatments from our facility. And we have helped many, many people with not only mental health issues, but substance abuse problems. And we're really getting away from the pharmaceutical paradigm of let's treat your symptom and let's actually get to the root issue and the root cause of why you're suffering.
That point right there is kind of where I want to start. I have been beating this drum with my family, my girlfriend's my fiance's family for a while about the crisis that we're going through with the Western medicine world. It kind of seems now you can go into a doctor's office and pretty much, if you know the right symptoms to call out, you can pretty much get any drug you want. And honestly, some people, I just experienced this the other day where I have a family member going through a lot of mental health issues and asking not to be put on drugs, but then is put on antipsychotics and just kind of leads down to this path where she started an antipsychotic 4 months ago and now she's taking 6 other medications to combat the symptoms that the main medication that she's taking. Explain what makes what you guys are doing so much different than that traditional system.
Well, the typical pharmaceutical medications out there are really like it's treating a symptom, okay? And what ketamine does differently is whenever we've had any kind of traumatic experiences in our life or just through the course of life, our neural pathways get damaged in our brain. And when the neurons are trying to flow through these pathways, they start to bounce off the walls, which can cause a lot of the symptoms of depression, anxiety, PTSD. Ketamine's going in and physiologically remapping and restructuring the neural pathways in the brain. It's also going in and turning on the receptors in our brain that create our dopamine, which is our feel good chemical. It's what motivates us to get out of bed in the morning. But we specialize in a therapeutic or psychedelic dosing protocol with the medicine, which is sending people into a dreamlike state where people are having very profound healing experiences. And through the course of 6 treatments at our facility, people are achieving decades worth of talk therapy because we're processing past traumatic experiences. We're doing neurological healing. We're getting those feel good chemicals flowing. And so it's like, this is really the opposite of what pharmaceuticals do because they are like throwing a band-aid on the issue. And this is actually like going in, doing the surgery and getting the job done.
We're getting to the root cause and the root issue of why they're feeling the feelings that they do.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted to kind of go into a little bit of depth with, because the anxiety and depression, we can just start there because I know that there's PTSD and I want to get into all those different things. But people that have anxiety and depression, usually the drugs that they're given are just made to eliminate all feelings, whether good or bad or any type of feeling. It's just trying to dull you out. Why is that an ineffective strategy for helping people with depression and anxiety?
Well, they numb the pain, and we're getting to the issue of why you're experiencing that pain and then bringing you through it so you can get over it.
Yeah, listen, like the way that we grow in life is we actually feel emotions and we work our way through things. And when you're just dulling or throwing a band-aid on the situation, it's never really going to get better. This is where we get caught in this vicious cycle of having to take pharmaceutical medications every single day. And then all of a sudden the symptoms might come back and now we have to switch medications and things to that effect. It's like what we really are focusing on doing is helping people be more present in the moment, healing their traumas. I mean, listen, when we have people that are suffering from anxiety, anxiety is usually focusing on like the future too much. What hasn't happened yet and my fear of what might happen. Depression might be focusing too much on the past, like, oh, it should have went this way or I wish I would have done this. And what ketamine really is helping people do is it's actually helping people be present in this very moment right now. It's like, you have Ram Dass who said, be here now. And really, that's what ketamine is actually doing. It's helping people relax into the present moment where they're not focused too much on the past nor the future and being able to navigate properly here in this moment.
Being the more of the observer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. People really do say to us on a daily basis that things that would typically trigger them don't trigger them in that moment anymore. Everything just becomes a little bit easier in life for them to deal with.
Where does it start? So when somebody recognizes that they have these issues, where do you know, or not issues, just trauma, things that they go through, where do you guys normally find them?
It's funny because like a lot of people actually think that, ketamine should be like a last line of resort. And that's the typical viewpoint on this, is that this is for suicidal soldiers and for people that, no pharmaceutical medications have worked for. And the truth is that we actually embrace and empower people to realize that this should actually be a first line of defense. You don't have to go through all of that suffering and have this be your last line of hope, because the truth is that like we really are getting people off of their medications. Why would, there's a lot of clinics out there and they're like, we won't even give you ketamine treatments unless you've been on 2 different antidepressants before you try this. It's like, well, like, why would we want you to try a couple different antidepressants if our goal at the end of the day is to actually get you off of your pharmaceutical medications? And so like, we are more of a holistic wellness center that uses ketamine therapy to get people away from the, Western pharmaceutical paradigm. But, people need to realize that this doesn't have to be a last line of hope for them.
Yeah. And a lot of times too, when people take antidepressants, they're short-lived. Like they work for a couple months and then they stop working. Ketamine isn't like that. Once you've dealt with the things that have happened to you in your past and you're able to move forward, you're able to apply new, healthier lifestyle habits, and it makes it long lasting.
A lot of the time, the consistent words that I keep hearing people say is, I feel stuck. I'm hopeless. Nothing's really working for me. And it's kind of it's funny because I really believe that a lot of people get into these very depressed states because they don't know what their purpose is. Everybody's like, what am I doing here? Like, what's the point of all of this? What's my purpose? And through a lot of the treatments and helping people heal at the facility, we actually help people find their purpose and step into it. I tell people, listen, we go through our darkest days to make it out of it and get to the light so we can go back in the dark and help other people. I sat down with a girl at our clinic today and I was like, I know that it's hard for you to see this right now, but you have the ability to help a lot of people with your story. So let's get you out of that darkness into the light so then you can shine it for other people and let them know that there is hope, that they don't have to suffer anymore.
I think there's one of the problems that I've seen is that people don't know that they're even suffering. They're just living, and that existence is so drab and so unfulfilling that they can't even, it takes them years down the line to actually recognize that there was a problem to begin with. How, when you're working with patients, how do you make sure that they don't judge themselves for prior decisions that they made, pitfalls that they've gone through? I mean, you guys have worked with people that are kind of trying to get out of an alcohol addiction or a drug addiction while they're in the process of going through ketamine treatment. So how do you guys lead with gratitude, or lead with generosity, lead with no judgment? Like, I think that's another very unique aspect of what you guys do.
Well, I want to back up a little bit because they're our clients. They're not our patients. We're not going to sit there and tell you that you're sick and you're broken and this is how we are going to fix you. We're going to hold your hand on that journey and do it with you because you're not alone and you're supported in this. And every single employee that works for us has gone through the treatments themselves and they've healed part of themselves through ketamine therapy. So we can truly take that hand-holding approach while we're guiding you through this process.
And like the way that I live my life is through a level of stoicism. Okay, so that means that life hasn't been happening to me, it's happening for me. And so a lot of our clients that have had severe substance abuse issues or have this self-shame kind of, outlook about everything because they feel like they did something wrong for so many years. I'm like, listen, no. This was divinely orchestrated. Like, you had to go through all of that. Don't you see it? It's like, I was telling the story today. I used to be hooked on opiates, and when I would not have access to them, I would get really sick from not taking them. And I would look up at the sky and I'd, be like, God, why are you doing this to me? How come I can't get my life together? How come I can't stay sober? I just want to be like everyone else. And see, it wasn't punishment. It was actually something that I had to go through because now I know what my purpose is. My purpose is to help other people that are going through similar situations to that. But without going through those dark times or those hard times, I would have never made it out and been the person that I am. So, you have to look at things, whether you believe in God or the universe or whatever label you want to slap on it. It's that sometimes God or the universe gives its toughest battles to its strongest warriors, the people that have a real purpose that's going to help lead people and show them that, they can be inspirational by making it through the trials and tribulations. And we really try to empower people in that, to know that, listen, you're not broken or none of this happened for nothing. It's all leading to something that's going to be greater than you could possibly imagine.
Yeah. And anybody who says they haven't been through anything and their life is perfect, they're full of shit. Everybody's been through something, and to try to just mask that down and not deal with it and say this is that they are like, there's a hierarchy to it. There's not. And if you think that, then you're wrong. I'm sorry.
What is your guys' response to the criticism? Because people watching this podcast are they're interested in taking this journey, but they could be scared and they could be worried about the negative connotations that the media puts out about ketamine and different psychedelic drugs. What is your guys' response to that?
I really think it's very important to do your own research, not just when it comes to ketamine or psychedelic therapy, but with anything that you're, listening to or hearing from a mass group of people. The fact is that ketamine has had some serious taboos and stigmas attached to it. A lot of people don't even know it's used for anything else except for then it's used on horses. I mean, and the truth is that one of the reasons that ketamine is used on animals is because of the safety profile for the medicine. It's so funny because people are like, oh, well, I take antidepressants and I take benzos and all of these, other medications. And you watch TV, and when the commercials come on for these medications, there's like 40 different adverse reactions you could have to the medication, right? And the funny thing is that people aren't aware that ketamine is actually one of, if not the safest, least toxic anesthetics on the market. And it's so safe that it's the number one choice for pediatric sedation, meaning children 18 months and older have ketamine used on them when they're going to be doing surgeries or they need to be sedated because of the safety profile of the medicine. So like when you're actually doing a comparison, ketamine is much safer than almost every other medication that they're giving people out there.
Yeah, and for what it's worth, it's one of the safest, least toxic anesthetics on the market. It's on the World Health Organization's top 10 essential medications.
Yeah.
And that is due to the toxicity level of it. And that's what he means when he says safety profile. It's a non-toxic anesthetic that is very, very safe.
So like, I mean, when you think about it, it's kind of ironic, isn't it, that the only time that you hear about this medicine, it's in some headline saying, calling it Special K, or, the unfortunate situation where somebody might recreationally abuse it in a anesthetic dose in a hot tub, all of these negative headlines, but you don't hear the thousands and thousands of positive stories with the medication. And so it's like, I mean, listen, I don't want to go down rabbit holes, but the truth is, it's like, it's almost like there's been a smear campaign that's been being pushed forward on this medicine. And there's a lot of other medicines out there that had similar situations happen where, the public or the general public was told very negative things about them. And then all of a sudden, the FDA or the CDC came back around and they're like, hey, wait a second. Nope. No, this is actually doing amazing things for the same symptoms that everybody was saying it didn't work for. And then, here we are. So like I said, very important to do all of your own research, because I'm not aware of really any other medications except for, ketamine and other psychedelic compounds that are actually doing physiological, neurological healing to the brain.
Yeah, it's hard. Well, going on like it having negative connotations. Somebody just recently, very important person just recently came out and talked about his use of ketamine and how it's helped his depressive episodes that he went through, and that was Elon Musk. Yeah. Now, what made me such a ketamine advocate after I heard him talk about it, you're talking about somebody that has everybody has their own stress. Everybody has their own baggage that they carry. I think Elon might, and it's not a competition, but might have some of the most baggage a person can carry. He has the weight of the world, it seems like, on his shoulders. For him to want to use ketamine in a way to help positively change his neurological pathways opened up my idea of, okay, if one of the smartest people in the world are using this, who is also under a lot of undue stress and pressure and things that we can't even, as normal people, can't even picture going through. What did that do for you to hear that? And then how did that change kind of the public perception, in your opinion?
Isn't it ironic that it's such a big deal? Isn't it ironic because if Elon Musk would have got on national television and said, listen, I go through depression and I'm super stressed out because I have the weight of the world on my shoulders, so I take an SSRI, or I use Xanax every once in a while because I get so stressed out. Do you think there would have been such a public uproar about it? Absolutely not. Mind you, benzodiazepines are actually so addictive that if you stop taking them abruptly, you can die from the withdrawals. Ketamine's not like that though. And so it just goes to show that once you go against the program, once you go against the flow and the narrative and you start going in a different direction, all of the sudden it's an uproar. Now we're talking about, well, shouldn't stockholders be concerned that you're using ketamine for your depression? And it's like, so wait a second, but like, would stockholders be concerned if he was taking any other SSRI for his
Or
depression
benzos.
or
Yeah.
benzos? Absolutely not. But because it's ketamine, because of the narrative that has been going in with ketamine for so long, that it was such a big deal.
It's interesting to see that from his perspective. Now let's take it more to a daily. Who do you guys see most frequently on a daily basis that come inside the clinic and need your guys' support?
We see a huge different demographic of
Yeah,
people.
people from all walks of life.
I mean, honestly, and listen,
We've treated from 15 to 86 years old.
88 now.
88.
Yeah. And so like the thing is that this is where our clinic is very different, because we're not like just pushing this on the suicidal veteran or saying that this is going to help people like that. Like we had a 15-year-old autistic kid
Yeah.
whose mother brought him in, and it helped with the symptoms and did amazing things for him. And because we embraced the actual psychedelic experiences and that aspect of the medicine, after his first treatment, he went and sat on the couch in our integration room next to his mother, and he goes, "Did you know that we're all a part of the same thing? That everything's connected?" And, I had another guy come out of his treatment today, and he goes, "So we're all the same. We're all a part of it. Like it's all connected." And it's funny that people keep coming out and having that same experience, that we're all one collective consciousness. But we had him. And then, we've also had, the mid 80-year-old Parkinson's patients that we've treated, or the suicidal veterans, or the alcoholics, or the fentanyl addicts, people with cocaine abuse issues.
Or the super wealthy entrepreneurs too that go through anxiety just like Elon Musk does. He had an anxiety attack every single day for the last 20 years.
Not Elon, but one of our clients.
Yeah, one of our clients.
Yeah.
And during one of his treatments, he went back to a time when he was just a little boy and he got bit by a dog. And right after he got bit by the dog, his dad spanked him and reprimanded him. He didn't even remember it. He was so young. And after he relived it, he was able to let it go, and his anxiety went away after that.
Yeah, so this was a guy who was having anxiety attacks very frequently and had that experience and processed something. Listen, that's what like this medicine is actually going. A lot of times we don't even know why we have these symptoms, and it's stuff that's stuffed in our subconscious, these repressed memories that we have. I look at us like these like biological computers, and we have all this data that's stuffed away in our brains. And, like this isn't ketamine, but this goes to the same outlook of like at Johns Hopkins University. I heard that they were doing psilocybin studies, and one of the people that they gave psilocybin to during a macro dose of psilocybin experience went back to when they were in the womb, and the umbilical cord got wrapped around their neck, and they processed the trauma of the umbilical cord almost choking them to death before they were even born. I mean, so like when you're talking about things in our subconscious that we don't even know that we have to deal with, there is no other kind of medications out there that I'm aware of that are actually accomplishing this.
And the reason I see this becoming more and more of a necessity in terms of helping people through, depression, trauma, anxiety, is because we have so many different tools. Let's take social media, for example, to always escape. And so you're always able to get away from the feelings of anxiety, from the feelings of depression, from the feelings that my life sucks, from the trauma that you're not addressing or you're not even accepting was even real. All these different facets that we're so easily able to jump out and escape. Have you guys seen clients come through this journey and then all of a sudden they're spending more time just in life and not so much running from their problems anymore?
Yeah. I mean, listen, like, it's crazy because a lot of people end up coming to us, and I know this is one of the reasons that I escaped, or I used other substances to escape for so many years of my life, is like I never felt like I fit in. Like I was very like popular in a way, like I had a ton of friends and a lot of acquaintances and stuff like that, but I never felt like my views aligned with most people's. And so even though I was surrounded by people all the time, I still felt like a loner in a way because something just felt off, right? And then it's funny because like this is because we're not following the rat race mentally. Like we're not plugged into the matrix in that aspect. And then all of a sudden people come to the facility and they do the treatments and have these awakening experiences. And they're like, wait a second, it's not me that's so off. I'm just not following the crowd. And it's perfectly okay because I don't want to be going with the crowd because I'm not really aligned with the way that they're going. And that's the proverbial box that society tries to fit you in. See, the thing is that what psychedelic medicines have taught for me is that the box doesn't exist. The box is an illusion, and it's a part of the program to keep you trapped in the rat race. And see, here's the thing. I think that so many people are also suffering out there because even though it doesn't feel like it, in a way, we're trapped and enslaved. I mean, we have this sense of freedom. Like, I get in my car and I go drive to work and I work from 9 to 5 and I'm at Target and I'm shopping
Don't bash Target.
Oh, no. Not bashing, but I'm like, I feel like I have all this freedom because I'm moving around freely. But like I'm trapped because I'm never really gonna move forward in life. It's just like I'm on this hamster wheel where I'm working my butt off and it just doesn't seem like I'm getting anywhere. And what ketamine and other psychedelics do is it shows you that there's an issue with that. And it shows you that, hey, wait a second, like, am I really gonna just keep on going on this hamster wheel for the rest of my life? Or am I gonna step off and try to go into another direction? And like,
We've
hence,
had a lot of people that have quit their jobs that were the job was just dragging them down and draining them, and they finally just felt that ability that they could take charge of their life and find something that was more fulfilling for them.
or we have, and listen, like, I tell our staff sometimes because we see it, and I talk with Christina about it. A lot of the times we're in the business of either saving or ending relationships. Because sometimes people will be in a relationship and they'll stay there for a really long time because they don't really have a sense of self-worth or enough respect for themselves to set healthy boundaries and not let people treat them in ways that they would if they really loved themselves. And see, when people go through the process of the treatments at our facility, they find this overwhelmingly loving feeling for themselves and this new self-found level of respect for themselves that they're like, I'm not dealing with that anymore. Like, I'm not going to do that. And so they'll end up leaving a relationship and, finding a better one or
Sometimes we bring marriages closer together.
100% saving or ending. And it's a very consistent thing when people come in like that.
So we kind of talked about the transformation of the process, or the transformation of the treatment itself on the person. Let's talk about the treatment going in. If somebody's listening to this, they're wanting to make the decision that, hey, I'm going to go ahead and start this. What does the path look like? So explain from A to Z how the process would go for them and what they can expect on their first treatment, their second treatment, and throughout the entire treatment itself.
So usually they call and we'll give them either a tour or they'll do a consultation on the phone. The first step is they would have to meet with their psychiatrist and be approved for the treatments. After they do that, they would then...
What happens in that psychiatrist meeting? It's just so that people can understand. What can they expect?
He'll talk to you a little bit about your past. He'll give you some meditation techniques. It's really he kind of goes with the flow. He'll make sure that you're not contraindicated for the treatment. And then it's just kind of whatever conspires from the conversation does. Like they might talk about the past and what brought them here, and then how they can move forward with the process in their life, how they might feel during the treatment. And Dr. Ferber usually says to just watch it like a movie and just realize that just watch it like a movie.
Yeah, no, listen, like Dr. Ferber sits down with people, goes over their history, really gets to the root issue of why they're going through what they're going through, does the diagnosis, approves them for the treatments if he thinks that they should be approved. Then they would meet with our nursing staff and do a medical history. After those two things are complete, you start your first treatment with us. We do 6 treatment protocols, either 2 treatments a week over a 3-week period or 1 time a week over a 6-week period. And then at the end of that, people would meet with Dr. Ferber one last time. But when people come in for their first treatment, people usually do have anxiety and are nervous about things. And that's when we sit down with them. And like Christina was talking about earlier, it is one of the reasons why it's so important that everybody that's working at our facilities actually undergone the treatments themselves. I usually sit down with people and tell them, listen, it's perfectly normal to have some anxiety going into something like this. That being said, I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised. Because of the anesthetic qualities of the medicine, any anxiety that you have going into it will go away very quickly once you get the medicine first going in. Usually after a minute or two, people start looking around like this and going, okay, I'm starting to feel pretty good right now. And that's when we encourage people to just lay their head back, close your eyes, pretend like you're going to take a nap. This is a tool for meditation. It's a chemically induced meditative state at the deepest level possible. So what you want to do is clear your mind, go back to your breath. If it gets a little bit intense, deep breath in through the nose, out through the mouth, bring yourself back to the present moment. And then, if people find themselves overthinking or if they're in a thought loop, always go back to your breath. In through the nose, out through the mouth, bring yourself back to the present moment.
The clinic's really vibey too. Everybody always walks in and say for their first time, and it even happened today, they say that just feels so calm and it has such a nice energy to it. So when you come to our clinic, you're really walking into a place where you can let your guard down and relax and just surrender to the experience.
Yeah.
The rooms have diffusers in them and really dim lights. We give people really comfy blankets and blackout masks. We let them listen to different curated playlists. And there's a call button in the room. So if they ever feel uncomfortable, 1, we're always monitoring them on a camera. But 2, they always have that call button. If we don't see something that they are feeling, they can hit that button and we'll come right in the room.
How does that differ from other ketamine clinics?
Yeah, most ketamine clinics are really sterile and cold. They have lots of different scary monitors around, and the nurse is always coming in and out of their room. You hear different machines going off, blood pressure cuffs, and ketamine is really navigatable. So if you hear somebody coming in and out of the room the whole time and you have this thing squeezing your arm, it's going to pull you out of it, and you're not going to actually be able to just go within the medicine and let it do the work that it needs to do.
Yeah, it's pretty like, as Dr. Ferber would say, let go is the way. Surrender to the experience. Watch the movie of the mind. And it's pretty hard to surrender to an experience when you got a machine on you going beep, 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 and then the nurse is popping in and out of it feels like there's a medical procedure going on.
And a lot of people have medical trauma. There
Yeah.
is a lot of people that we see with medical trauma. And then to put them in this kind of situation where they just need to relax and watch this experience and let go of their traumas, it's not a comfortable environment to do that.
We built our company on the what not to do's. All right. So like we knew numerous people that had gone through ketamine therapy, and we had meetings with all of them when we were getting started, and we said, what did you like about the experience? What didn't you like about the experience? And we really made sure that we catered to all of the things that they didn't like about their experience and built our company on what was going to make people feel comfortable and loved and taken care of the whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely doesn't feel like a clinic in your guys' place. It's a Zen palace, as I'd like to say.
Well, when we started off, I was like, I would never want to have a psychedelic experience in a doctor's office.
Yeah, most clinics just like rush you out the door and everybody's a number. You're still wobbly from the medicine and they just have you walk out. They don't even help you to the door. We have people get really comfortable. They may take their shoes off. We'll help them put them back on. And then we built an integration room that's just a really Zen lounge. And they can go in there and relax after their treatment's over. Nobody has to leave the second they wake up. So it just allows, that full immersion of this healing experience.
Two more things I want to touch on. I want to touch on what it looks like after their first round of treatment, and then where you guys would direct somebody that might need to go back for a second round of treatment. So let's start with, they go through either the twice a week for 3 weeks or they go into the once a week for 6 weeks. What does the end of that process look like, and what do you guys usually try to advise through the next couple of weeks? They've gone through this very intense experience over either 3 weeks or 6 weeks. What does the next steps look like for those people?
One place that we're really different with our messaging about this is that we don't think that the medicine is the cure-all or the absolute answer. All right. And we are very mission driven and want people to heal. So we basically tell people listen, we don't want you to have to be relying on ketamine treatments for the rest of your life. This is why we teach people about meditative practices and healthy lifestyle changes. And we really encourage people to take part in those things. If nothing changes, nothing changes. So we use the ketamine as a tool and a catalyst, and it gives people the opportunity to grab the reins of their own life and get rid of the symptoms. Now it's time to start putting all of these healthy lifestyle practices into place. And usually, by the second or third treatment, people are really starting to feel a shift. And by the time people have gone through all 6 treatments, they're an unrecognizable version of the person that first walked in the door. Now, we do have continued care packages for people just in case they want to continue on their healing journey. And, it's okay if you do. There's nothing wrong with that. There's no one size fits everybody. And, a lot of our clients do get relief in doing 6 treatments. Other times people need to do more, and it's just part of the process. But
everybody's different, and everybody comes to the table with different background, different trauma, different history. So to say, Jaime, you're only going to need 6 treatments and that's what's going to work for you may be different for what needs to be for Charles. Everybody's different, and everybody's rate of change and adapting these new lifestyle practices is different for them too. Everything is custom tailored to the individual.
Well, then you'll have people and they're like, well, listen, you see, you got to keep on doing treatments. And not everybody does, right? But this is where it's okay, so we sell continued care packages of 3 treatments, right? And you have 6 months to use those treatments. So let's just say that, every couple months you came in and you did a treatment. I personally think that's a lot better than having to take a pharmaceutical medication every single day. All right. So, when we're talking about, the lesser of having to digest all of these harmful medications, and being ketamine isn't even really harmful, and having to use it every once in a while for a touch up to get yourself back centered, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Now, personally, I haven't done a treatment in over 4 years. I still feel fantastic. But that's just my journey, and I healed with a lot of other psychedelic compounds as well. Ketamine was the icing on the cake for me, though. It really did for my symptoms, and got those symptoms out of the way, where none of the other compounds that I used really addressed it to that level.
Yeah. Do you see, kind of going back to the trauma and addressing those traumas through your guys' own experience, what is it like to come face to face with those traumatic experiences in that deep meditative state that you guys talk about?
So mine wasn't something really traumatic that I had to go back and process. My thing was that my dad died when I was really young, and it threw me off. I was 6, and I had this crippling fear of death. I used to wake up every day, and the first thing that would pop in my head would be am I going to die today? it was debilitating. And I used to just wake up and start pumping myself full of different substances to self-medicate and get through my days. During one of my macrodose mushroom psilocybin experiences, I was meditating in pitch black silence, and I was under a comforter in my room, and I meditated and went out into the middle of the universe where I became one with everyone and everything. And then I became one with God or the collective consciousness or the universe, whatever you want to call it. And I realized that I was it, that we all were, that separation was an illusion, and that, I was basically an extension of the divine. And at that moment, when I experienced that, I realized that every time I was taking drugs and alcohol, I was literally poisoning God. Okay? Now, see, here's where it was liberating and why it helped me so much is because until that moment, I was so scared of dying that I was avoiding living. And once I realized that we were all lit, I didn't have to be scared of anything anymore. It's like if we're all a part of God or this big collective consciousness, that death is an illusion, then that, like that I don't have to be scared anymore. And that was so liberating that I was like, okay, it's time to start living my life now. And then so instead of trying to escape everything, I started trying to build a life that I was going to be proud of.
But sometimes when people go to past experiences, well, they're watching it from a third party perspective when there's no feelings or emotions attached to it. We treated this EMT one time, and he had gotten to the scene of an accident, and there was a little boy on the ground, and he tried so hard to resuscitate him, and he blamed himself for years that it was his fault that the little boy died. But during his treatment, he went back to that scene, and he saw that there was nothing that he could do. The little boy had already passed, and he was finally able to let go of that guilt that he felt for years, because he saw that there was nothing that he could do. And for him, that was a very pivotal moment in his life. And he was able to transform and just let go of all that guilt, all that hurt that he felt for, I think, 5 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's I've worked with I have a lot of friends. I have a lot of people that are first responders, military, police officers, firefighters, and they see some excruciating shit consistently.
Yeah.
Day after day after day. Obviously you gave that great example, but what does that do for somebody like that? Somebody that's gone through things that even us normal people can't physically imagine happening in front of our very eyes, and these people experience this at a volume that would scare a lot of people just hearing about it.
I mean, like whatever the person's trauma that they need to heal from, it really just, it brings you back to that third party perspective where a lot of times we stuff and repress these things. We don't deal with them. And then, years down the line, we have anxiety and debilitating depression, and we can't figure out why. And to actually go back and process these traumas, no matter what kind of trauma that somebody had been through, that's really where the healing begins.
Yeah. Yeah. We have been treating a Marine, and he was very highly ranked. And he's actually on full disability from the VA. And now, like, everything that he saw, he was able to just let go of, and it doesn't affect him like it did before.
Yeah, and this gentleman was on a string of pharmaceutical medications, and after his 4th treatment, he came into the office, and he was just like, I'm off all my meds.
Yeah.
He was on like 9 different medications, and he's just like, why isn't the VA telling everybody about this? And he goes, everybody needs to know about this. And then when I told him, well, hey, listen, man, you should do a testimonial for us. He's like, I can't do it. He's like, because I'm on full disability, and if I go in public and tell everybody that this did such amazing things for me, they might try to take my benefits away.
Yeah.
Dirty shit.
It's tough, man.
Yeah.
It's tough. There's a lot of people that, this has had a really profound healing effect on that won't come forward just because, it could cost them a lot of things. And then what, like the backlash they might get from coming forward and saying something like this, even though it's FDA approved anesthetic and everything that we're doing is within the guidelines of the law. And then, because of the taboos and stigmas that are associated with it.
the good news that I see is that that's changing. I think you guys, the fact that you guys started in 2020 blows my mind because I think we are now more progressive from a thinking perspective, from a
Oh, yeah.
healing perspective than we even were then. Think about I think there was some weird, jab that we might have gotten that all of a sudden people got a little bit wary over certain pharmaceutical drug companies. But I think you guys, just from the perspective being outside the company and not obviously in the day to day, you guys are leading a revolution, and you say that, but it's interesting to see when the narratives start to change like they have, even recently, even as much as when, this Elon Musk quote came out. But it's cool to see that you guys knew that this was going to change the world, and you stood in the bunker even when you were taking all the crossfire and all the, bullshit that the mainstream media kind of threw at you guys. What keeps you guys moving? What keeps you motivated? Why is this such an important mission that you guys are driving forward day after day for?
Once you see what this medicine is capable of doing for people, there's nothing else for you.
Yeah.
It's like,
You
oh my,
can't unsee it.
you can't unsee
People
it.
come in gray and lifeless, and through the set of treatments, their aura changes. They literally start to glow. They become irrecognizable, and it's just so beautiful to watch.
This is like, we know we can change the world with this. And the truth is that people don't need to suffer anymore. We have an option now. And, this is our mission. It's my purpose. I spend time with my family, and I work on helping people heal. Those are the two things I'm really passionate about. And I felt like I struck gold with this stuff, and I know it works because it worked for me. And I think that's what ended up happening, is that, nothing worked for me for 20 years. And then all of a sudden this completely turned my entire life around. And I was just like, oh my gosh, I need to tell everybody about this. But the thing is that I also know that my story isn't for everybody. So what we do through our nonprofit, the Warriors of Consciousness, is we're putting, an advisory board of evangelists together full of military personnel and first responders and, people that different walks of life, different symptoms, different stories. So we can really have a team of evangelists that will reach every demographic out there that needs this medicine.
Love it.
Because everybody needs access to it. It's not just a rich person's treatment. Everybody deserves to feel better. And there's hope for anybody out there that's struggling.
Yeah.
What can people expect from the podcast?
We are going to be talking about healthy lifestyle practices and breaking the taboos and stigmas associated with this medicine. We are going to be having success stories and people coming on and sharing their experience, strength, and hope. And we're not just building a company or a nonprofit organization here. We are creating a movement that is going to change the world.